Welcome to Practice Underwater. And I believe this isn't the first time, but we have a 2019 Practice Underwater guest back on air. And before we were chatting, myself and fake name Nate were having a conversation about what was the name from 2019 in case anyone has amazing memory and wants to connect the episodes. And the best thing we could come up with is Nate, but we're like 50-50 on whether or not that was the actual name used in the episode. So we have our doc, Nate. And I'll just tell you what I remember about that initial conversation. Nate came to Shared Practices and came with a request of, I'm a solo dentist. I've been doing, around 1.4 million for like 7 years, and I'm ready for something to not be dependent on me. And so then what we've done over the years is a solo to group transition. We got to the point of 3 doctors, and then I believe there was a doctor lost. So Nate's practice has grown quite a bit. And I looked through the analytics, and I'm wondering, what do we have to talk about? So Nate, welcome back to the show. Whatever you have to say to introduce yourself to the audience. And the burning question that I have is, from everything I saw, things look like they're going quite well. There's always some pain point or something for us to take care of, and I'm wondering what it is. So that's for me very top of mind. But Nate, welcome back. It's so nice to talk to you. So yeah, just why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a bit to our audience? Just remind them who you are, and then then give us the why you're here part, because that's the thing I'm dying to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me back, George. Yeah, so I was back in 2019. I believe I was actually your last coaching client.
Ah, that's how I know Nate very well. Yes.
Yeah, so just a little bit about me. I'm a 2011 grad, purchased my practice in 2015, so about 11 years ago. We were doing about 700K when I bought the office and then kind of organically grew the office. We doubled it from 2015 to 2020. And yeah, during that time, really during the pandemic, like most people, I had, some time to do a little bit of soul searching and spending a lot of time at home with my young kids. Yeah, one of the things I think that really stuck out to me during that time, one of the pain points I had with being a dentist was the fact that prior to owning my own office, I was always in a practice with at least one other dentist. And I was just in the solo office, and I was just thinking there's no way I can do this for the next 20 years of being a solo doctor. That kind of lit the fire under my butt to grow the practice from a solo to a group practice. And, kind of working with you guys before that, I knew that was kind of your bread and butter. So yeah, you and I had our initial call, I think sometime around then, around the pandemic. And you saw a pretty clear path for me going forward. I think around that time we were doing, about 1.4 ish plus or minus. And you were like, I have a pretty clear path for you, but I'm kind of winding down my coaching right now, and I will only take you on if you're willing to kind of follow my prescription, more or less.
Is that what I said?
It was more or less. It was kind of like,
I don't remember this.
if you're not willing to get uncomfortable and do this, then I can't help you.
Ah,
Yeah, you were pretty blunt in typical George fashion, and
yeah.
I kind of ran with it. And yeah, so we onboarded our first associate early 2021. And then, yeah, from there, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I think we went from 1.4 to maybe 1.9, and me cutting back a little bit. And then we kind of have just been growing over time. This past year, we did over 3.1 with 2 dentists last year, 8 doctor days a week last year. So, there's been ups and downs over the last 5 years as far as growing a group practice. There's been times where it's really felt like a true dental business. And then there's been times where I currently at, which is why I'm back here with you today, where I'm definitely very much back in the whirlwind as far as operations are concerned and doing the day-to-day drilling and filling. So I would say that that's primarily where my pain point is today. Yeah, just kind of looking at a path forward so I can, I guess, scratch more of that entrepreneurial itch, cut back a little bit more of my time clinically, but maybe more importantly, discuss sort of what pathways exist for somebody in my situation. You're looking more towards a more of a sustainable sort of exit strategy. So we can talk about potentially partnership opportunities, get your inputs on DSO sales, private dentist sales. And because I think attracting and retaining associates has really been my Achilles heel over the last 5 years.
Well, that's extremely clear, and I really appreciate you taking the time and kind of walking through that. And so now I have some questions for you. Let me spend 10 or so minutes just asking questions, getting answers, and going from there. So you were at two associates plus you, three dentists.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And when did you lose one?
So actually, last year, right around this time, I actually lost two
Ah,
kind of back to back. Yep. I lost one to maternity leave, and then I had one that did not last with me very long at all. It just wasn't a good culture and it wasn't very productive.
excellent. And did you ever have a time where you were by yourself in the office?
When I had multiple docs,
No, like, so you had three dentists, you lost two back to back. So was there a window where you were alone before you got another doc in there?
no, never, no. Since 2021, I've always had at least one other dentist in the office with me.
So how many dentists have you had in total since 2021 in your office?
So we've had, do the math here.
Walk me through the timeline. So when was your first associate started?
Correct. Yeah. So first associate started February of 2021.
Okay. And how long did they last?
She was with me for about 2 years.
Okay. So till about February of 2023.
Correct.
And what was the reason for her?
It was a maternity leave situation, and she just couldn't come back more than like 1 to 2 days a week.
And was that not a viable option for you?
No, it wasn't a viable option.
Why not?
She wasn't really the best cultural fit, to be quite honest. So it would have been like if she was a rock star, I would have considered it. But there wasn't really a clear path for her to like work back up to her 4 days a week. She kind of had a long commute as well. So I could see the writing on the wall that she was looking for something closer to home.
When did you have another dentist start?
So I had another dentist start maybe 6 months before she went. So October of 2022 is when I
Okay.
had my second doc start with me, and she's still with
Okay.
me today.
She's still with you today.
She is still with me today. Yeah, she's been with me for just over 3 years.
All right. How is that going?
It's going great. Yeah, she's with me 3 days a week, so she's not a full time doc, but she's a few years older than me. She's above average productivity. She's great with patients, a good leader.
And has she expressed any desire for anything different than her current arrangement?
She has not. No,
Okay. Excellent. Steady as she goes. I have two left. Is that correct?
three left actually. So I had another. I had a doc that came on probably in 2023 and was with me for about a year. After a year, we were kind of renegotiating his contract. Wasn't overly productive, wasn't the great cultural fit, and then had a couple clinical things go sideways that I just didn't really feel comfortable keeping him around long term.
All right. Fourth.
So another female dentist that was with me started in 2024 and was with me for just over a year. So her husband was also a dentist, and she was kind of trying out part time with me and part time with him. And she just wasn't sure if she wanted to work with her husband full time. And then when she had a baby, it just made a lot more sense for her, sort of logistically and financially, to kind of just work at his practice part time and kind of partner up with him.
And the fifth is the culture fit one that you didn't like, who was pretty quick. How long did he last?
It was like a month,
Whew.
very
Okay.
quick. Yeah.
Any awareness going through that list?
Like self awareness about hiring or
Any awareness that going through all five dentists and I have observations, but I first want to hear your observations and then I'll give you mine.
looking back, I think I've hired, the number of associates I get applying to my office it's a very small number. So I oftentimes will kind of settle for something I don't, there are some red flags from the get go. I say that's kind of the primary thing. So what do you see?
Okay, well, first, let's take a pause on PBN. So I'm going to go on a little rant. So don't just give me a minute. So, first off, if you're listening to this and you are somebody who is thinking about a group practice, one of the common concerns, and Nate, you can sort of chime in here, but one of the common concerns is I don't want a revolving door of dentists, right? It's like I don't want my practice to just have these associates come in and out, come in and out, come in and out. And one of the things that I have to, when people go to multiple locations or a group practice, one of the things that I have to just like sort of slap them on the head with is this idea that doctor turnover is part of the business. Like there really isn't a way around that. So let's take a look at the practice. The practice has 3,600 patients. The practice has 97% reappointment rate this month. The practice has excellent patient retention, and The practice barely loses, it loses like, 20 something patients a month. Like this is, for the size practice, very retentive. I just want to say that because to the audience, they might think, wow, like how are patients reacting to this? It's like, well, patients are staying and they're reappointing, and there is very little, if any, sign of patient attrition. So I just want to like start there. Then the second thing I want to do is I want to say, okay, well, let's take a look at these doctors. First associate, for every single associate, I'm going to ask the question, was this a good leave or a bad leave? And why? And where was the breakdown? So, first associate, right? A culture fit, not viable. That's good leave. That's a good reason to lose somebody. Second associate, still working 3 days a week, steady as she goes. Amazing situation. Third associate, didn't like them, not productive. Some things went sideways, didn't retain. Good leave. Fourth associate, maternity leave, husband, good leave. Fifth associate, culture fit. So I think all of the reasons why they're leaving are good. What would be a bad leave in this situation would be somebody leaving and saying like, I went for a better opportunity, or I wanted partnership and didn't get it, or like losing someone that you don't want to lose. Everyone that you've lost is someone you've more or less wanted to lose, except for the one that's still there. And so I say that I think you nailed it. It's how many people are applying for the position, how much you want somebody, and that settle on the early side is kind of what's going on, right? It's like you're sort of, it's almost predetermined fate, right? And so I look at that and I say, okay, I have a very clear understanding of the doctor situation. Now, what do you do and how do I help you? That is going to require me to better understand what you're looking for. So you've talked about exit, you've talked about sale to DSO, you've talked about partnership, you've talked about things. So maybe I need more information about your personal life and how it impacts your professional life. So like, what are you really trying to accomplish on a personal level? Like, what are some of the North Star things that we're really trying to get to?
Yeah, I think for me, like the North Star is I've got two young kids. I have a 7 year old and 8 year old. I don't particularly dislike dentistry. So I'm not looking for the path to like get out of the chair and just only do practice management. I'm really looking for like probably a 2 to 3 day a week clinical schedule and kind of throttling that based on the needs of the practice and how essentially ensuring that my associates are first and foremost productive and content. And then from there, I can kind of throttle my schedule. But I think ultimately, I'm looking for a practice that I can maintain the profitability I've been able to do over the last few years because it has been quite profitable, and just cash flow this for, you know, at least 10 more years. I mean, that would be like a huge win in my book.
Love it. And I just want to like, I have to double click on something you said because it's massive. So, a lot of this is like my pet peeve. And I honestly feel like I'm on a mini mission. Like, I'm not on a mission to do this, but like, if I could have checked this off in my career, I'll feel really happy. That I think dentists sell too early. It drives me nuts because you put in all this effort to build this business that's a recurring revenue, cash flow business. And then you have a pain point or two. Now, I'm not saying you're doing this, but people do this. They have a pain point or two and they offload it. And it's like, let's just say you get 6x, 8x EBITDA. If you were to own that thing for 6 to 8 more years, you would get every year you get 1 times EBITDA in your, additional to your productive income. And like, if you do that for 6 to 8 years and then sell, you like double your outcome because you're getting that. I mean, there's taxes, but like you get your income for that many years plus you offload. So like the thing that I was going to push you towards was how can we make this sustainable for a longer period of time? Because that's how you have the biggest net worth outcome from the opportunity is by owning it for a longer period. And so I'm happy that you're already on that same page. And I want to ask a few questions. So the first one, you said that you like dentistry. Is there a type of dentistry you like more than another type?
Yeah, I definitely have a preference towards surgery, implants, endo. Yeah, I like kind of simple crown and bridge, but I would say ideally I would go in and just do surgery and endo.
Now, I'm going to guess what I think is going on. So it sounds to me like what's going on is that you're on this kind of like when you lose an associate, your clinical days go up. Then when you get an associate, your clinical days go down. And then when you lose them, they go back up. Is that kind of what's going on? You're like the squeeze that when the office needs doctor productivity, it's like you are there. Is that kind of what's going on?
That's exactly what's going on. Yeah. I'm like, it's like a yo-yo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that's not sustainable, right? Is like this just like 2 days, 4 days, 2 days, 4 days, like just that kind of like non-stability.
Correct. When I went from 2 days and then ramped back up to 5 days, because I'm doing 5 days a week now. Yeah, and I am taking like every other Friday off. So but still, it's let's just say,
So you're doing 4.5.
yeah, 4.5. I mean, it was a tough reentry because I was down basically when I started with you in 2021. I was down to 3 days a week, and then I was down to 2 days a week, and then it was right back up to essentially 5 days a week almost a year ago, and it was a tough reentry for the first, I don't know, few months. And now I'm just kind of like back into the swing of things, and it's not quite as bad. But I do know that this isn't my, anything you want, nothing off the table.
Yeah.
You would say, this isn't really the way I envision the next, the back half of my career looking.
Yeah. Do you have ads out for associates?
I do, yeah, yep.
And what's happening right now in that process?
Yeah, it's like trickle here, trickle there. I have a headhunter. I'm on Indeed. I've LinkedIn. I'm posting on Facebook pages, going to study clubs. It's been a lot of like international dentists that work at Medicaid clinics that I just don't think would be a great cultural fit for my office. Some dentists who are like retired that are coming back into the mix, and some dentists that just live out of state, and I follow up with them and I'm just not getting much of a response. So I have interviewed a handful of people over the last 6 months, but just was never really getting like a great fit about anybody. And I think I'm a little gun shy. I think being back in the saddle 5 days a week, I'm a little gun shy about pulling the trigger on somebody that I'm just not like really excited about.
Finally. So you've reached the next level. The next level is patience and like being more selective. So I actually think that's a positive evolution. Now, let me ask a critical question. So your associate is working 3 days a week. So maybe walk me through the Monday through Friday schedule. So you're working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every other Friday. So I have you down. So what 3 days does your associate work?
She is there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
How are you able to navigate Mondays?
Yeah, Mondays are tough. There's 4 hygienists there on Mondays and just me. We work from 9 to 6, so it's also like it's the one day a week we work during the evening, which I really don't prefer. So yeah, Mondays are I just power through on Mondays. I don't know how else to explain it, but
Yeah.
it's just a sprint through Monday.
Let's just say you were like, you know what? So let me explain. Do you have 4 hygiene Monday through Thursday?
We have 5 hygienists on 2 days a week.
So what days are those?
Tuesday, Wednesday we have 5 hygienists. So Monday we have 4, Tuesday and Wednesday we have 5, Thursday we have 4, and Friday we have 2.
All right. So I have a question for you. Has your associate ever been there by herself checking for 4 hygienists?
She has, yes.
And how has her reaction to that been?
Generally not a huge fan. It hasn't been often, but yeah, generally not a fan.
Okay. So that's not her speed. She's a likes to go at a pace that's sustainable.
Correct.
Okay. I feel quite clear. So let me ask you the critical question. So there's this thing that happens when you have a group practice where there becomes a problem. Sometimes you don't have a doctor, right? And in this situation, you're down a doctor. And so you're not able to work your ideal schedule. And you guys have 11 ops, correct?
That's correct.
So there's ample space for 3 providers, right? So it's just like we just don't have enough providers. Um, there is 2 schools of thought here. You are the school of thought that says, I'll be the yo-yo and solve the problem, right? So then you're going to go to 4.5 days a week and solve the problem. There's another school of thought that says, I'm not doing it. I'll live with the consequences. Have you had that thought of like cut Thursday and Friday out of your schedule and just like accept what would happen if you did that?
No, no. I never considered that, and honestly, I don't think you could convince me to.
Good. And why not?
I've worked too hard to build a practice with, just shy of 4,000 patients. We have 11 operatories. Like to me, it would just seem like I would be retracting, and I'm willing to deal with like the short-term pain to force myself through. Like I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. To me, I think if I were to cut back, it would be like 5 steps back, not like 2. If I were
Yeah.
to cut back my schedule.
That only leaves one option. So, I wanna tease our audience a little bit. So I asked you all these questions because when you first brought this up to me, there was something that stuck out to me as clearly the best idea. And I have, throughout this conversation, been really just asking questions at every other possibility, leaving only one idea that seems like the best one. And so I could either say it now or I could have some suspense and I could encourage our audience to come back for part two, where I'll break down that idea, why I think it's a good idea, and just kind of walk through how I would approach this situation. So, how does that sound as a plan?
Oh, that's great. I think I can wait till next week.
You can wait until 10 minutes from now when we start part two, but our audience will have to wait a full week. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do a recap for our audience, and then we're going to close this episode maybe a little earlier. And then we'll have some time to go through the rest. So I guess, Nate, before I even get into it, is there anything else that's not working that we haven't discussed?
Yeah, so I was just going through. I'm looking. I just got out of like a half day meeting with my office manager, and we were really kind of going through like the whole flow of the office using your duck. I think is it a
Ah,
duck?
yeah, the duck, yeah.
Yeah. So we pulled out the duck and we went through every step of the duck this morning, and we were really trying to look at like the three main areas that we're going to really move the practice forward over the next quarter, given kind of where we're at. I think honestly, I'm really excited to hear what you say in next part's episode because I really am waiting bated breath here. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I think there are so many things in my practice that are like kind of dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have a lot. I think a couple things like we're really going to be focusing on, and whether or not this is like a part of the conversation here is like, I think one of the areas right now we've gotten a little lax on following up with patients for like uncompleted treatment because, quite honestly, we just have too many patients given the number of providers we have.
Yeah, that's not really a priority right now.
Yeah, it's not a priority right now, but I know it is going to be a priority when we bring another doctor on. So we spend a good bit of our morning really discussing how we're going to tighten up our systems for when we get that new doc on to ensure that like they're set up for success. So that's one of the things. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear your other option, but I think another thing is just thinking about ways to think about onboarding, how we really decide on should we consider minority equity stakes in the practice, what that looks like, the pros and the cons. Like I said, my current associate does not, I actually did about a year ago. We went out to lunch and I sort of presented her sort of like a quasi, like, this is what it would look like if you were like a 10 to 20% owner. And I had the practice valuation there and showed her what times EBITDA, noting this percentage. And essentially, like, even if I did a seller's note, like, how at the end of the day, like, she would still be making more money each month after paying me. And I calculated the cash on cash return and it was like 15%. And like, I thought I laid it all out there to a point where like she would be a fool not to really consider it, but just never really acted on it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you my input on that on the next episode. That's a little hint for our audience that you're heading down the right road. And I'll explain why. Let me just take a minute and explain to our audience how amazing of a spot you're in. So like, Nate landed it. Like the probably the weakest part of Nate's practice is patient acceptance, and the patient acceptance is strong at 78%. But yeah, unscheduled treatment would push that to, solo doc numbers. But like there's nothing there is nothing wrong with the operations. It's actually quite impressive. 3,600 patients, very strong retention. Your AR ratio is impressive too. Your AR ratio is 80%, which it means that it takes you like 24 days to get paid when 30 is considered good. So you're like, your AR is better than good. Your reappointment rate is like what, top 5%, something like that. Like it's very impressive. So you are running the systems, the team, everything, not the doctors. It's really working. And so, congratulations. And yeah, so we'll come back. So let me give kind of an update about Nate's situation. So Nate and I go way back, like he mentioned. He's somebody that I helped myself back in the day, and he's got two younger kids, age 7 and 8. And Nate likes dentistry, surgery, and implants primarily. Also likes crown and bridge. Nate really wants to work 2 to 3 days a week. And what's happening right now is we went through all 5 associates that Nate has had in his office, and we have associate 1 was a maternity leave culture fit issue. Associate number 2 is still working 3 days a week, not interested in partnership. Associate number 3, after a year, wanted to renegotiate, wasn't great, not productive. Some clinical things went sideways, left. Associate number 4, husband and wife, went to the husband, went part-time after maternity leave. And associate number 5, a 1-month culture fit issue. So, we've kind of gone through 5 associates, and we're really looking for what does allow Nate the opportunity to go sustainably 2 to 3 days a week and also maintain profitability and cash flow long term while doing surgery, implants, and endo. So that's what we're going to come back and talk about in part 2. So thanks for listening to this episode of Practice Underwater. I'm going to leave you guys hanging on a cliff and come back next week, and I'm going to walk through, I have a very clear recommendation here. So I'll come back next week and we'll kind of go through it. So thanks for listening to this episode of Practice Underwater. Come back next week where we're going to kind of finish the story, and you'll get to hear about what I'm recommending for Nate.
Resonate.